Okay, hi there and welcome to another Nerd Out Nature video. I'm just going to jump straight in, and today we are doing the red-bellied black snake. This guy here, very cool snake. Snakes, and I love reptiles, so I'm pretty enthusiastic about this one. I'm not saying they're my favourite animal, I love all animals, but yeah, these snakes are just awesome, and the red-bellied black snake is probably one of my favourites, so just put that out there. Alright, so let me get all the journal supplies ready. I've got a lot of them sorted, but we'll pick them and then I'll get started on the information. So enjoy while I work out what I'm going to put on the page. Okay, so we'll get started with some of these things. I'm going to jump straight into decorating once I've sorted out exactly what I'm going to do. And yeah, let's get into this beautiful creatures video. So I got a little bit, this is meant to be water, this paper, photo of water. So it's very fitting, as you'll find out soon. I've got some rocks and a bit of washi paper. So I might rip this up and then put that near the water because snakes love to hide in rocks. And I just got some scrap pieces of paper and a bunch of stickers as well. So I'll do this bit and let's get into the red-bellied black snake. So this guy I always thought was red belly black snake, as in red belly black snake, but it's red-bellied black snake, which probably makes more sense. It's probably just because I'm a bit of a bogan sometimes, and I always just, it has a nice ring to it, red-belly black. Red-belly black snake, but it's red-bellied black snake, which to me just sounds like more of a mouthful, but whatever floats your boat. So the scientific name for this guy is Pseudechis or Pseudechis, I'm not sure. Porphyriacus. Porphyriacus. So I'll put that on the screen and hopefully you can work out the pronunciation for yourself, but that's the best I've got. So these guys are one of the most beautiful snakes in the world. Just personal opinion, purely personal opinion. Geez, I'm going to try to do a lot of tongue twisters today by the looks of it. I love that they have this jet black body with a broad flat head, and so obviously it has this black colour on top and red underneath, hence red belly. So the black on top actually has an iridescence, which is purpley golden sort of coloured. And so the underbelly, as you can see on this image, this is a great sticker by the way, the artist who did this is awesome, because it shows the red on the edges of the black coming into the belly, just under the underside, but then it fades into a orangey, red, pink, even whitish sort of colour straight through the middle. So they are a very striking snake. Usually they are just more red than other snakes, so it makes it a little bit easier to identify them. Plus the jet black body and head on top is a giveaway if you come across a red-bellied black snake. There are other kinds of snakes that would look similar, but they are quite distinct in some of their colouring, so we'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, gonna start sticking. So they are also venomous. An animal that shows bright colours is often very venomous, just in nature, or poisonous. Now, an easy way to remember the difference between venom and poison is if it affects you when it bites you, so like a snake bite or a spider bite, then it is venomous. But if you touch it and you get sick or are ill, then it's poisonous. So something like a poison dart frog, if you just touch the frog, then you're touching the poison, and that's what gets you sick. Whereas if a frog bites you, nothing's really going to happen. But with a snake, the bite, they inject and deliver the venom. So just touching the snake won't do anything, but if the snake injects it into you, then that's what venom is, and the other way around is poison. So that's sort of one way to remember it. I do want to do a whole other video on that and talk about it a lot more, but yeah, for now I think we'll just point that out briefly. So no one has ever actually died from a red-bellied black snake bite. Okay, so let's get into the core of this video. The red-bellied black snake is known as just a common black snake, or just a red belly, or RBBS. I don't know anyone who calls it RBBS because I hate acronyms. They just, unless you're in the industry and using the same one every single day, it's so frustrating when people use acronyms to describe stuff and just assume that everyone they're talking to knows what it means. That's just one thing that really irks me. So, yeah, I don't want to go more into it really, but yeah, I just think call it what it is. If you can't say that whole word, then you know there's not much point talking about it anyway, and then abbreviating it. It's just I don't get that. So anyway, rant for that over. RBBS, which is just red-bellied black snake, and yeah, I've always just called them red bellies or red belly blacks. And yeah, couldn't find any record of anyone else calling them that ever, so I guess that's just me. But they are also, I really don't want to butcher this name because as an Aboriginal name and as a non-Aboriginal person, I do not want to get into the routine of just pronouncing stuff and acknowledging everything and all that sort of thing, because it's not my place, and I do highly respect Aboriginal people and the connection they have to land and that, but I won't be able to pronounce everything properly that they used to call these animals or still do to this day. So I'll put it up on screen, but the Eora and Durung people of Sydney Basin have always referred to this snake as Jirabidi, I want to say. Yeah, I'm not going to try to pronounce that anymore. But it's, when it comes to the Aboriginal people, they know a lot about this land, and I think that's great. But I don't want to start talking about a culture that I know nothing about, and I don't want to be, I just don't want to be that person who goes into that too much. So any questions, I'm happy to answer them to the best of my ability, but yeah, I don't know a lot in that area. So let's move on. So breaking down the scientific name of the red-bellied black snake, Pseudechis or Pseudechis, I think it's Pseudechis, but the pronunciations I found weren't great. Pseudechis porphyriacus. Pseudechis porphyriacus. And this is in Greek and Latin. So the Pseudechis is Greek, pseudo meaning false, and echis meaning viper. So this shows its similarities to venomous vipers, which is when this snake was made. When this snake was discovered, they assumed that a lot of different snakes were like vipers, but obviously it's very different now, and we know it is an elapid from the Elapidae family, this guy, the red-bellied black snake. So they're just a different family to vipers, a different kind of snake, different how their mouth parts work, and just a completely different snake. Like all other animal families, they're all just from an individual family, and that's how that works. It's not about, I've seen a viper before, so I'm going to name it just like a viper, which is what I give the Europeans a hard time, the ones who came and settled Australia, because a lot of the stuff they did was just their way is the best way, so let's just copy that. Let's just keep doing that. So it's hard to explain. I do plan on doing a whole video on just history of Australia and just some of the naturalists and zoologists and botanists that came here and did their things a certain way in naming specific species and describing things and the beautification of things, how they had to have gardens their way and zoos their way and the animals in their backyards their way, and they had to change everything basically. But I also want to give them some credit because they didn't know any better either. I know that's a shocking sentence to say about, colonialism and settlement, all that sort of thing, but you also can't really blame them. They were doing what they thought was right at the time, and we now know better, so let's just try to learn from that. Okay, I'm going to stop ranting about all that now because I'm going for way too long. Breaking down the scientific name. So, pseudo equals false and echis is viper. So, false viper, actually an Elapidae. So, just a different family to vipers. That's all I needed to say. And the other part of their name is in Latin. So, porphyriacus is derived from the Latin meaning purple or red purple, which just refers to the colours displayed on the snake. So pretty specific, a snake, a false viper with red or purple. So I'm just doing some muted colours for this spread because I want it to be, I want the sticker itself to stand out. The red and the black on the snake. So this is a beautifully drawn sticker, so I know it's very correct with the colouring and stuff. So I'm just going to put it on top of all these like browns and greys, and that's those sort of muted colours, so hopefully it stands out a bit like that. Okay, so similar species to this guy. So shockingly there are quite a few similar species, meaning there are different black snakes and there are different venomous snakes that are very similar in size and looks, but I mean Australia has a lot of snakes and some of the most deadliest snakes in the world, so that's fun. But honestly, I love snakes, so I'm very biased when I talk about them because I actually wanted to be a reptile vet if I could. Turns out I couldn't, but not that I couldn't, it's a whole journey that maybe I'll talk about on here one day, but long story short, I love reptiles and I really wanted to specialise in doing something with reptiles. But it was, life had other plans basically, and I just love anything to do with reptiles, especially snakes. I really enjoy snakes. I've had a couple of pythons before. I love venomous snakes. I would keep venomous snakes if I trusted myself to not get bitten, but I can also be clumsy at times, so nope, I just won't go there. But these guys are actually kept in captivity a lot, the red belly blacks. I know a lot of the companies that do like shows, like animal handling sort of shows and zoos and stuff, I know they have a lot of red belly black snakes in their collections, because obviously they are a very striking snake and very beautiful, and they're a great display piece, again, like I've said in a couple of other videos. And yeah, I think they're great. Snakes in general I think are great, but red belly black snakes are probably one of my favourite. They're just a cool looking snake, but they've also got a pretty placid personality. It's really cool actually. So I'm going to stick to my notes and not go too much into that yet. So similar species, we've got the blue-bellied or spotted black snake. Just having trouble getting this sticker off. Okay, so we've got the blue-bellied black snake, which I'll put on screen. They are actually a smaller bluish snake. It's not as stark black as these guys. But yeah, they are very similar, a bit smaller, but they've still got that same dark black sort of look. There's also a small-eyed snake, which is now on screen, but these guys are nocturnal and also smaller, so probably a similar size to the blue-bellied or spotted black snake. And we've also got the Australian copperhead snake. Yep, another venomous guy and another one I love. Unfortunately, because I love snakes, I haven't seen that many in the wild. Now, most people I know would love that, would be overjoyed by not seeing snakes in the wild. The only snake that I can remember clearly that I've come across in the wild is actually a pair of red belly black snakes, and ooh, that made my day. That made my year that year. Can't tell you what year it was, but I remember it otherwise very clearly. So, obviously I've ranted and raved way too long already. I obviously, yeah, love these guys and I love snakes. So seeing red belly black snake in the wild is just awesome. It's the best feeling. And yeah, everything I'm about to tell you about them is very true from, you know, the day I saw these guys in the wild. I'll never forget. Anyway, so yeah, the Australian copperhead snake. I'm aware there is a North American copperhead, but I'm talking about the Australian copperhead snake. Now these guys are very similar looking, or they can be, not all. Copperheads actually vary greatly in colour. They different individuals can be completely different colours. You can have your light brown to medium brown to black. But they all have this distinct copper head. So it's more of like a dirt brown, bronze, copper colour, not so much black. These guys here have the pretty much jet black head. And yeah, copperheads, they can get the red, or it's more of a bright copper when you look at it closely. It's not red like this is here, but they do have the red scales along the side here, they can the same, but they're just not as black on top. And I don't think they have the iridescence at all. I think they're more of a matte black. And yeah, the copperheads have the copper head and the red belly black snakes have the black head. So that's the main difference there. But otherwise, they can be a very similar snake. I think copperheads are much more venomous than the red belly blacks. Now, I do have this book here, Australia's Most Dangerous. This is one of my favourite books. And yes, to all your questions, basically, obviously, I love these kinds of animals. I love, not because they're dangerous, I just love the idea of venom and how venom works and poison and that sort of thing, and how we can use them as anti-venom and to fight diseases and all kinds of different things. I do plan on doing another video on this sort of topic, but I haven't worked out exactly what to do yet. So any suggestions, definitely comment down below. But yeah, I love this book. I actually won this book in an Australian Geographic giveaway. So that's a random fact that you probably didn't need to know, but I'm very proud of this book. Here we've got this red belly black snake. This isn't one, this is a mulga snake. We're not going to worry about him right now. But you can just see how black, how vibrant that black is. Sorry, just get the glare off. And see how they've got this red on the side here. Similar to this one, how it goes a bit wider in the belly. You can't see it in this image, but just that bright red. Now, I don't know if copperhead is in here. Let me just look super quickly. This is the small-eyed snake that's very similar to the red belly black. So you can see they're just black, so they are similar. They have quite a different shaped head though. But obviously if you see one in the wild, you're probably going to be pretty shocked and you're not going to be able to focus straight away on identifying it. You're going to be more focused on getting away from it, I think. Hopefully, if you're doing the right thing and you're not me. These guys, there's 3 different species. Now I will go into them in another video. I just wanted to show you, there's no image in here that's very good. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that. They sort of have a little bit of colour on their side there. So that can come out as quite red sometimes, or red brown, or like a red brown. But these photos aren't the best, but you can see, so this one has a bit more of a brown head. This one has a bit of brown on the tip of its nose there, but this one has quite a brown head, whereas the red belly black has black. Just, you can tell obviously that it's much more deeper black head and body, and there's no discoloration throughout the body and the head. It's just all the same colour. So this is this guy. I just wanted to show you in this book because it's just easier. All the venomous snakes and the snakes I'm talking about are right next to each other. So yeah, I just wanted to show some of those. I do plan on doing a lot more videos on snakes, so I won't go too much more into it. But the red belly black snake, this is the area they're found in. So southeastern Australia, just not in Tasmania. This guy down here, Tasmania. But I love them. Obviously, I haven't said that enough. The other thing I wanted to just quickly show is there's a little bit on snake safety. Now, this kind of stuff is always really interesting to know. Basically, yeah, any kind of snake that you come across, doesn't matter if it's venomous or not, you want to treat it as if it is venomous. If it does bite you, then you have to act quick. Obviously, if it's venomous, yep, go to hospital, but any snake bite, you want to go to hospital. It's not going to be a good thing otherwise. It's not going to be a bad thing if you show up and it wasn't venomous. That's never going to be a problem at hospitals. So I think it's always just really good to be aware of this stuff. So when you go out bushwalking, never go alone. If you walk around in heavy boots and you stomp on the ground a lot, there's a lot of myth around this that they can hear you and they'll sort of slither away. But it's more that they can feel the vibrations and they just freeze, or they will just be aware of you being in their surroundings, and they will more than likely leave you alone. Not many snakes will actually chase you or go for you. Most of them will just hide. The red-bellied black snake especially, they will just freeze and hope that you don't see them, or they'll slither away if they can. It's not in their genetics to want to have a go at you all the time. So unless you really rile them up, they aren't really going to bite. And no one's ever died from a red-bellied black snake that we know of. There are some records, but they're sort of too old and it's unclear whether it was a red-bellied black snake. So mostly, as far as we know, no one's actually died. People have been bitten. Bites do happen a lot because you may not know it, but you may sneak up on them and they'll just lunge. That's their reaction. So I think, especially in the Australian bush, if you're walking around, it's good to just be aware of your surroundings more than anything. And if you do see a snake, just try to back away slowly and let it go on its way. If it's staying still, then just, move back, move away. Just use pretty much logic and reason where you can. If they do start to chase you, then just get out of there is the best advice I can give you. It rarely happens. I just, when you're faced with an emergency, sometimes you are not sure how to react. If you can remember one thing, just get away from it. And if you're not sure if you got bitten or if you did, just go to hospital anyway. They can work out if you're okay, basically. So we have some of the most venomous snakes in the world in Australia, and you just really need to be aware of that if you're in the bush at all over here. So red-bellied black snake does not register as one of the most venomous. They do have venom. It's not great if they bite you, but it won't kill you. And I say that in quotes because you never know. Someone could be much more susceptible than another person, and just go to the hospital anyway if you get bitten. Non-venomous or venomous, it doesn't matter. Just always go to hospital if you get a snake bite. It should be treated anyway, just like any other cut or graze. So I think, it's just something to be aware of. And there's obviously heaps of things that you can do first aid wise. I wouldn't recommend any of this unless you're stranded and no one else is with you. Just get to a hospital ASAP. You can brace it and wrap it and that sort of thing, but unfortunately a lot of the time we don't have these first aid supplies with us, so the best thing you can do is just get out of there. And if you do go anywhere where you can't get out quickly, then take first aid supplies. That's all I can say. And you should know first aid if you're going to do this kind of thing out in the bush. So we'll leave that book for now, but it's a great resource for me and I've really enjoyed looking through this. There's lots of useful information. It's by Australian Geographic. And I just thought that would be something small I can show you during the video. But let's move on. Okay, I think I'm going to stick this guy down. Okay, so I've done this spread a little bit camo because I these snakes do blend in to their surroundings. Obviously not as much as a lot of other animals because they're bright red and black. But they are also very nonchalant, actually. Shockingly, they actually like resting out in the open. I have heard a lot about them, and for ones that I've worked with in captivity, they will just chill out in the open because they love soaking up the sun. So they love sun and water, which is why I've got this water image here. They love the outdoors. They're obviously very well adapted to their environment. And so they can have a lighter black head, but it normally fades from the body into the snout. It's darker on the top of the head and fades maybe into a grey or a brown on the snout, whereas the copperhead are just all brown on top. The red-bellied black snakes have an obvious brow ridge, so they've got, you can't really see in this image, but there's a bit of a ridge on top of their eye, and that's just for looks. It's not, I don't know of any specific use for that, but it's just, they look much more menacing, and yeah, it's obviously just a part of how they're made up. But the head overall is just barely indistinguishable from the body, unlike other snakes where you can tell there's obviously a difference between their head and their body. It's not a smoother transition on the scales and everything. So these guys can grow up to 2.5 meters, but they're usually about 1 to 1.5 meters, and that's around 8.2 feet. So they can get pretty big. They're one of the biggest snakes that we have around that are, easy to hunt down. But they're not like a python who can get really huge. But yeah, these guys can be a fairly good size. Okay, so their diet. They will eat pretty much anything they can fit in their mouth. Like some of the other animals I've talked about here before. So tadpoles, fish, lizards, other snakes, including their own red-bellied black snakes, they can be cannibals, and that's just part of nature. And mammals, their favourite prey tends to be frogs, especially in these swampy areas where they like to hang out. But yeah, they will eat their own species as well, and their own young even. It's just circle of life for these guys. But in captivity, they a lot of people keep them, especially in Australia, because they are a very placid venomous snake that you can keep. It's a great thing to have in your collection if you have, one of the venomous ones. And people have even been known to feed their dog food. So who knows how that started or why, or just why. They can survive off tin dog food. So I wouldn't recommend feeding them tin dog food, but that's happened. I read a few times in the literature. They will eat mice and rats and chickens and fish, so very easy to feed. It is actually illegal to feed live animals in captivity. You can feed goldfish and that sort of thing, especially if they're in the water hunting it, if it's alive, but you can't feed mice and chickens and stuff that are still alive and running around. They have to be killed, and you can dangle them and wave them in front of the snake or lizard or whatever animal you have, and it's like they're alive and they go for that response. And unfortunate, because these animals, like it or not, do eat living things in the wild, and they're actually good pest control. They keep down a lot of, rabbits and mice and that sort of thing, because that's what they feed on. You want to feed a varied diet to anything you keep in captivity. Obviously there are animals that only eat particular foods, but where possible you want to be as varied in feeding different things as possible, because that's what they would have to do in the wild. They would eat to survive, not be fussy, you know, unless you're looking at something like an echidna who would only eat ants. They're very hard to look after in captivity, but I will be doing a video on them soon, so let's not get distracted and go into that. Okay, so they love wet and sunny habitats such as swamps, rivers, and even saltier areas like lagoons and inlets. So they will just sit in the water and chill out, that sort of thing. But yeah, they love basking in the sun and being close to water where they can catch their favourite prey, the frogs. So that's the story with why you see so many out and about lying around. I don't see many, as I've said, but yeah, they are a fairly common sight, I think, out if you live in a wet area, grassy and sunny, gets warm and that sort of thing, you are likely to come across them. Water is obviously used by humans and things, so they will be in disturbed areas such as in fields of crops and near drainage canals or farm dams. So they're there because that's where the rodents and the birds are, and frogs, things that are easy to hunt. So they will just sit there and wait, and that's how they catch their prey. So they're just not fussy. They're capable of living in many different environments, human inhabited or not. They're not really fussed. They actually also hunt in the water. So actually in the water, submerged, or they may sit their head on top and lay below the water and, lie in wait just where they can breathe. But they can also stay submerged for up to 23 minutes, which is very specific. But they will also disturb sediment in the water to flush out fish and crayfish, that sort of thing, for hunting. So they're very industrious. They get things done. They're versatile. So they're really cool. They also hibernate in the cold. So we do get red-bellied black snakes in Melbourne. As I've said, I've seen one where I was out walking with my mum one day, and yeah, they're just they would feel the cold very easily, I can imagine, and this is where they would hibernate. And a lot of different snakes do hibernate, just like bears do in the northern hemisphere. But they do this thing called brumation, which I will probably do a whole other video again on that. But so they are quite common, but they're feared, just like most snakes are around the world, but also in Australia. People are sort of only just now starting to lose the fear and culling mindsets. Anything else happens, before they get you, get them, basically. And that mindset is just ingrained in so many of our generations. I think only now people are starting to not take that on, I guess. And this is where I was talking, they are vulnerable in regard to human habitats because they are just constantly under threat, especially by farmers. So many humans, and I say Europeans just because in the 1800s when they first brought over all the European convicts and everyone from to Australia from England and in the UK and different countries over there. Yeah, they brought all these convicts over to Australia, and they had a particular way of life that they were used to, and they wanted to bring it to Australia as well. So it's just this exaggerated fear of snakes in generations of farmers and just people who live off the land. They're treated like a pest and killed rather than something that can help get rid of other pests like rabbits and mice, like I mentioned. This is all snakes, not just red-bellied black snakes, but yeah, European settlement and history, throughout history, their mindset was to eradicate and replace with the familiar, which was, rabbits and different animals from Europe at the time. So they literally brought rabbits over. They got rid of the snakes. It's that whole mindset that they just continued for years and years and years. My Nana, who passed away, who was 92 when she passed, about 10 years ago now, probably more, 15 years maybe, she just had this strict mindset of if you see a snake, you kill it. They're just danger. You don't go near it. And this fear is also based on revolution. Oh my God. This fear is also based on evolution, because cavemen and obviously onwards, they did come across snakes, and often a snake bite would just mean death. So you would avoid them at all costs, or you would get rid of them from your living area. So I understand where all of this comes from, but it's just, it sucks. It's not great for the snakes. I think these days we have a lot more of a general idea about don't kill it, just leave it be. But this sort of thing has gone wrong a lot, because many species have been brought over and introduced to help preserve or better this way of life over in Australia. There are just a lot of things that are after these guys in the wild, humans included, obviously. There are also feral cats that they have to deal with, because feral cats will just hunt anything. These guys are actually they're really struggling because of cane toad, a big pest, and they have these poisonous glands that squirt out this poison. These snakes love frogs, so they often go after cane toads, and cane toads are more up north in Queensland and now New South Wales. I don't think they're quite in Victoria yet, maybe the top part, but mostly Queensland, New South Wales. And these snakes used to be found all over Queensland, but they've declined because of the cane toad, and they've swallowed this poison, and they're particularly susceptible and it kills them. So unfortunately that has been the problem with a lot of native Australian animals. Cane toads are just a big problem because they're easy to hunt because there's so many of them, and these animals are used to hunting frogs or toads, and yeah, it starts to wipe them out, and yeah, it's really sad. Also, smaller or juvenile red-bellied black snakes are also easily hunted by kookaburras or magpies, even bigger birds of prey such as falcons or hawks or eagles. Bigger than them, because as juveniles they are tiny and they are still venomous also when they're juveniles. So yeah, they can be hunted by anything that's bigger than them because they're tiny. This can include lizards, other snakes, even redback spiders. So that's an interesting one. Redbacks are probably this big. They are a very common spider found here in Australia, especially here in Melbourne. That's pretty much it for me. That's the video done. This is the spread. I think I'll just quickly write the scientific name and yeah, just leave it at that for now. So bear with me while I do that. That's that. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.